Hello, welcome everyone. If you can hear me, please just post a little yes in the chat. We ask that while we're presenting, you keep your mic muted. Thank you. And keep your cameras off as well. And then if you have any questions, either post in the chat if you don't want to forget,
Or the
or
Q&A.
or we'll wait till the end and you have the opportunity to ask questions at the end as well. And just for those that may not be aware, this will be recorded. So anyone that was not able to make it or is at the meeting and wants to refer to this later, you'll have the opportunity to access this on multiple platforms, including our YouTube channel. We'll just wait a few minutes for any other attendees that are coming, and we'll get started by 1:03.
Maybe then, while we're waiting for people, if people want to write in the chat, either what your experience is with GitHub, even if it's 0, and what you want to use it for, maybe. That gives us an idea about the demographics of who's attending, and then we can tweak things as we go along. Yep.
Okay, this is great.
So we have some coding request things and then documentation ideas as well. So maybe then, as a note, this presentation is definitely from the 0 experience. And the idea is GitHub, a lot of the resources are like computer scientists that start on 3 sentences in, they're pulling up the command line interface and assuming everyone knows the language. So we're going to be going over a lot of the language to understand what's going on, and then at least with that knowledge also you can take that away and understand more information afterwards, more instructional information on GitHub. But this presentation today, we don't go into the command line interface at all. There's lots of resources available for that. We wanted to target for using the web interface, and then we can briefly talk about GitHub Desktop at the very end.
Yeah, this is great. I think this is a great time to get started. And for those that are in the chat, thank you for joining, and we hope you enjoy this presentation. So let me just share my screen. You can see the slides okay, Carly?
Yep.
Okay, so welcome everybody. This is the intro to GitHub presented by myself, Jabir Husseini, Dr. Carly Heidema, and Dr. Jerome Laroche. And we're all part of the CS-DCC, which is the Climate Smart Data Collaboration Center. We'll start with some brief introductions. So I'm Jabir Husseini. I'm a research associate at the University of Guelph, and I work My role within the CS-DCC is to help manage some of the training aspect and provide resources for the ICTs. And then I'll allow Dr. Carly and Jerome to introduce themselves.
Hello, so I'm Carly Heidema, and I am a part of the DCC. This is this Climate Smart Data Hub. And I went from zero experience in GitHub and disliking it. And now I wanted to help people to understand the benefits and make it over that initial learning hump, which is really difficult, I've thought, at the beginning of GitHub.
Hello, my name is Jérôme Laroche. So I'm a site manager for the CS-DCC Data Hub for Quebec, Laval University and McGill University. And also I'm a coordinator of a platform Genovalia here at Laval University.
Okay, excellent. Now that you know who we are, we'll get started with the presentation and I'll hand it over to Dr. Carly.
Thanks. Next slide. So what is the point? Why does everybody get really excited about GitHub and Git in general? And what it is it's an excellent system that lets you manage document versions. And that could be really important, especially where it came from computer programming, is that you'd want to know, this is release version 1 and code, release version 2. And you wanted to be able to go back and fix things to be very precise about what you were precisely working on. So I'm going to use an analogy of a typical document editing story that I think most people are going to be familiar with. So you're working on a document, and you now, of course, everything auto saves. But back in the day, you always had to hit the save icon to make sure that things were saving your work as you went along, or you would lose it. And let's say that you keep working, and you're like, I think I'd like to really try out like a totally new reworking of the introduction. It's feeling really awkward. I want to redo it, but I don't want to lose the stuff that I've gotten so far in case I don't like it. So you essentially do what you see down there is you do a fork. So you keep your document the way it was, but now you've started a new branch of versions that you keep saving. But this is where you're experimenting and trying out that new introduction. And perhaps in the regular document, you're tweaking other things, the conclusion, whatever. And eventually you need to be able to merge. You like your introduction a lot. You're not going to abandon that work. The new introduction is what you want instead. So then you need to merge those changes and get it to fit back into the document so that you can continue to make your saves along the way and continue to do the work. So this is my example of how we might work with documentation, and GitHub provides really excellent tools for doing this kind of workflow. Next slide. And why is GitHub important? Why do we like it so much for this? It's working with text, it's working with files, and it's especially good at text files. And it can store other things like PDFs and pictures and everything, but it's this whole versioning and tracking and awareness happens the best with the text. It lets you track exactly how the files change over time. Is especially useful to you because you can know who did what and when they did it, and go backwards and through and see, this part was done by so-and-so, but then it screwed up this downward part, and then you can figure that out. It lets you work on your own changes, that forking idea to test out ideas and merging them back in together. You can roll back changes because you're realize, oh, we made a really big mistake and we need to undo that. It's very good at collaborative editing and tracking things. And it's got, of course, lots of cool back-end tools that allow all of this work to happen. Next slide. You can find more information about GitHub training. So the DCC, we have a web page and we have a documentation site, and we should find that documentation site and put a link for it in the chat here. And what we have in our documentation site is a lot of what I'm going to talk about today, and it goes a little bit further on into like GitHub Desktop, which we're not going to get to today. And it talks with the basic concepts, navigation, how to do markdown editing, how to make files and folders, and uploading, like if you want to put an image in, etc. And working locally also with GitHub Desktop. So people who are interested in coding, we're doing all the work on the web page, and you'll want GitHub Desktop in order to pull the code down to your computer in order to run it for your analysis. Next slide. Now, for preparation for today, you're going to have your own individual account on GitHub. And if you don't have an account, maybe run off right now and go and make one, or do it when we do it all together. But you are an individual account on GitHub, and you may also be a member of an organization, which has an organization's account. Now, when you work, your work is collected into multiple repositories, which are containing your projects that you're working on. So all the files related to a project are in a repository, and you will have multiple repositories. And then organizations can also have repositories that are owned by the organization. And to be aware that you can have public repositories and private repositories. So public repositories is anyone in the public sphere, anyone on the internet can go and view the content, and the private repositories are limited, like your private repository is just for you, and if you're in an organization, members of the organization can view it. Next slide. Here's an example of when you're looking at GitHub. We're looking right now at Climate Smart Ag, which is our organization, and this one has 3 repositories. Then you can see in the list of repositories, we have the website in French, the website in English, and a SpecUpT documentation site. So this is an organization, and you can, on overview, it's doesn't have a lot of information unless somebody's actually put in the time, but the money is in the repositories, which is letting you see the work that is part of that organization or that individual. Next slide. Here's an example looking at a repository called the Hub Harmonization. You can see it's a public repository, and in purple there is the about. That is if the person who has written the repository should be writing a little description to describe what's in the content. Then we have in the blue and the red. The blue is the files that are present in that GitHub repository, or folders, and then going down further. Every folder level within the repository can have a readme.md, that's readme.markdown, and that readme content then appears below. So you'll often see, I found this frustrating. I go to a repository and the README was terrible and I didn't know what was going on and where the information was, or what was in this GitHub. So people can be very lazy and not write particularly good READMEs. If you're writing a GitHub repository that's public, especially if you're sharing code or something, take the time to write, if nothing else, a brief but descriptive README. Then in red is the box. And this is starting to get into some of the tooling that GitHub makes available for keeping track of versions and stuff like that. So every time you do something like a save, you have a chance to write a little note about what exactly you're saving, why you made those changes. And that little message, that is what appears, the last little message is what appears for each of those folders. So the readme.markdown had a very useful message called update readme. So that was the last saved message. Next slide, please. Now we're going to get into, back to my analogy, and get into some terms. So as I had said, a save in the world of GitHub, that is called a commit. So you're working along a branch, and each time you save something, you're going to do a commit. And the commit is extending the branch that you're working upon. And every time that you do a commit, you can type a little commit message. And that can be very valuable. I mean, it doesn't have to be for larger collaborative projects, the commit message is your chance to really be descriptive. I went in and I fixed this bug specifically in this section because these 3 files had errors, that kind of thing. It can be a message to help your peers understand why you did what you did. Next slide. And my previous example where I said, oh, you want to fork your work because you're going to try out some new idea, but then keep the old stuff and keep going. When that's also you're doing a commit, and you can deliberately say, I'm going to commit to a new branch and give that branch a name. So that's branching off, and now you're committing onto a new branch. So in GitHub, one confusing thing, one nice mistake that people like to make is that you're going to start working. So you show up on GitHub and then you are in the repository and you check your branch. You're like, oh, was I on the fixing branch or was I on the main branch? And that, because sometimes you're like, oh, I can't find what I was working on. You might have been on the wrong branch for the documentation, wrong branch for the work. Next slide, please. The other lingo is pull request or PR. So went from not knowing anything to now all of a sudden now it's like, yeah, we're going to do a PR. Lots of PRs. PR is that merging where you took your work from one branch and you're going to merge it back into some other branch. Typically, you're going back to the main branch because you liked what you did and now you're going to pull it back into main. But you can have branches that are you're trying a bunch of different things and then you're consolidating that and then it's coming back into main. So when you are going branch to branch, you're doing a pull request. You can't push it. You can't make someone take it. You have to say, can you please pull my work back into main? So that's the PR or pull request. Next slide. And finally, what we're going to be talking about today, what we'll be doing in the second half, is how to do this kind of work collaboratively. And a very, very typical model in working with GitHub is that you've got like your collaborative code that everybody is agreeing to. That's your upstream repository. And then what you're going to do is you're going to fork it into your account. So now you have a forked copy of that work, and then you go ahead and do your work on that fork. And that it's going to create a repository in your GitHub account, and you are downstream, and the source that you were working with is upstream. So next slide. Because what you can do is that after you've done your work in your own repository, you can say, oh, I would like to contribute this work back to the collaborative source of the project. And that is a PR, another pull request. You're going, a pull request goes branch to branch. And I stress this because if you start working with GitHub desktop and then you've got pushes and pulls and stuff, and then it starts to get confusing, come back to this idea. A pull request is going branch to branch, and it can be branch to branch within a repository or branch to branch from a forked repository. And this way, this is a really nice way to work in GitHub because you can take collaborative work and you can fork it into your own repo and you can do it and test it and have everything working there. And then at the end, you can put in a PR and send it upstream. So we also do this with documentation. It's not just for code. Like if you're working on a standard or a specification or something, especially where you want to track contributions and versions, is that you can have or vocabulary ontology work. They'll do this a lot, is that they'll have their technical standard that they are collaboratively writing at the organizational level. And then you fork it and you do the work. And you're like, oh, I'm going to add some new terms. So you add some new terms and then you put in pull requests to get those terms sent back to be accepted at the official version. And then collaboratively, you might have a meeting and then you say, okay, we're going to go through all the latest pull requests and we're going to evaluate if we want to merge their new term or not, or if we need to send it back for more work. So that is a very common model of how you do collaborative work in GitHub. Next slide. So like I said, for collaboration especially, GitHub is very useful. You're going to be tracking everything. So every commit that you make is all the changes you can see. It has a nice little difference engine. It highlights in different colors exactly what was changed compared to the last version. So you can see what got changed and lets you track everything like that. And it's got strong support for traceability, so you can see, you know, how those changes happened throughout. If you need to undo things, or a throat to choke, as they say, or anything else like that. Next slide. Now, that going back to that readme.markdown, you can, of course, have everything in plain text, but Markdown is nice. It's like plain text with a little bit of tweaking the plain text so that you can get like headings and stuff like that. So we're going to be doing some of this today together in a GitHub repo that we call the sandbox for playing around and experimenting. So you can see there on the left that if I put a hash space sandbox, that the markdown file then displays with that as your heading. And then you can do bullet lists and tables and subheadings and so on. And that is how you can make nicer looking README text files or other markdown files within GitHub. Next slide. So what we're going to do today is we're going to first make a GitHub account and go through and make a repository. If you don't have a GitHub account, make a GitHub account and go to your GitHub account and do in that repository, start practicing a bit of Markdown for your own README. And then what we're going to do is the next step is to try and do some collaboration. So there's a test repository and we will all fork it into our own repositories. Then that's our version now for making the edits. And then we will all do PRs to send our changes back up to the test repository to be incorporated in. I think that's my last slide, Jemmer.
Yes, it is.
Any questions before we start getting into the practical demonstration? Everybody's a GitHub expert and we're ready to go. Excellent. Okay.
Awesome. So first things first, if you haven't done so already, please go into the GitHub website. I posted the link here. Jerome, if you could also post that in the chat as well. Thank you. There you can see, you can sign up. It's easy and free to make an account. Just use the web version. You don't have to download GitHub Desktop. Then once you create an account, you can customize it. You can add your own photo. If you don't add a photo, it'll just create a generic digital background for you. And then within that, you'll have different repositories that you can create. So what you'll do is go into the new and create a repository, name it whatever you like. I just named mine test, give it a little description. So for myself and for others, so you know this is just a practice repository. You can decide if you want to make it public or private. Include the README, so leave that as on, and then you just click create repository. We'll go through this in a little bit as well. And then once you're in your test repository, as Carly mentioned earlier, you can start editing within the README file in Markdown, and you can start playing around and testing out the different functions. So you write, you know, something here, or you put some sort of bullet, whatever you prefer, and then you commit the changes. And then in the second half of this live demo, we're going to do a fork. So we'll go into a public repository that we've created, which is the sandbox. And you're going to create a new fork, and then it's going to allow you to make edits in real time. And then we'll show you what it looks like on both ends, your end and as an admin level, what you see and what controls you have over when people make edits. And then in Sandbox, you'll have the ability to make edits, which is what Carly had demonstrated earlier. So before we move on,
We
I
have a
see there's a
question.
question.
And I was just saying, should we walk over as you were saying, Javed, or should we wait? I mean, you walked over all the commit and the forks things. So I was just typing the commit thing. So I was wondering, are we going to make pause and then try one thing at a time?
Yeah, good question. We can go through the live demo now where you follow along, and we'll create a test repository. And then the second half will be the sandbox. So I'm going to stop sharing this slide, and then we'll go into what it looks like on the back end. So let me share my practice repository. Can everyone see this? Okay,
Yes.
thank you. So as mentioned, once you create your repository, so within your profile, you can go to repositories. I created a test repository here. So if you would like to create one yourself, just click the little icon here, go to repositories, and then within repositories, click new, and then just fill in the repository name. So let's do this as test2. Just don't duplicate the names. It'll let you know if it's available or not. Description, you can add something here. I'm going to keep this as public. I'm going to keep the add readme as on so
Definitely
that
add a readme.
yes. Otherwise, you won't
It's
be able to
confusing.
edit in Markdown yet. And then everything else you can leave as is because this is just a test. If it's something more private, you can change this to private and add licensing and different restrictions. So then create repository. And voila, it'll automatically create this for you. And within this repository, you can now start to play around. So here's the README markdown that Carly was explaining. You just click the little pencil icon, edit the file, and in here you can start writing stuff. So hello. And then if you want to create little bullets, you can start making lists as well. But we'll get into that in more detail in the sandboxes. There'll be some great examples there. And because this is your own repository.
Click on preview to show that you can check your markdown.
Excellent. So this is what it'll look like once you make those changes. Thank you for that.
Yep.
And once you're satisfied, and because this is your own repository, you don't need to go through the process of like forking and having someone review it. You can just click commit changes. You can commit the change and give it a name. So whatever the message you want to make it as, and you can add a little description. So doing this just as a practice. And then you can create the change directly to the main branch, or you can commit this to a new branch, which would start a pull request. But we'll get into that in the sandbox. So let's just keep this in the main branch. Click commit changes. And there you go. Now if we go back to the main page, you can see it's made those changes for you.
Any questions from this step?
How do we get to see what were the changes made and when as a history for the README file?
Robert? Do you know where to look at the history? Yeah.
So if you go back to the main page, you'll see here, there's a little time emoji which says 2 commits. And if you click that, it'll show you the history of when everything was changed.
So here the value of writing better commit messages makes a difference because, update readme, update readme, update readme doesn't help you so much when you're starting to go through to try and find something.
So any more questions before we go to the sandbox and show some more features? Okay, excellent. So here is the sandbox. If someone can post the link to the chat. I did post it in the slides too, but I don't think that's visible right now. If not, I can just do that quickly. Let me just briefly stop sharing. If you go to that link, that is a public repository where you can see some of the other features that we'll work on, and you can follow along here as well. So once you're here, you can see this is a public space, and you can see within the space there's a README file that has already had some edits made. And what you'll do is you'll go to the fork, click, and then create a new fork. And then within that, it'll automatically give the name, choose the owner, give a little description, and then create click fork. Because I've already done this, it won't let me do another one. So I'll just give people a few minutes to do that. This is where we're going to rely on others to make some changes here so we can see what it looks like from an admin level, where Carly will show all the changes and how it will show you where the changes were made. And then as an admin, you can decide what changes you want to pull.
And by admin, that's just the person in charge of the repo from which everything was forked from. So there's nothing special about the role. You could all be admins. If you were collaborating, maybe you would create a lab organization, and then you might have 1 or 2 administrators to administrate the lab organization, and they might create, say, a lab protocols repo, and then they would start to write all the protocols in Markdown, and then other people from the lab could fork that protocol repo, add their own content in their version, their forked version, and then do a PR to send it back to the lab's upstream repo. And then the lab manager, maybe you'd sit down through a meeting and talk about what changes you would want into the protocols. And then the lab manager would do what I will show you, where you're merging all the changes in. And this is helpful, for example, for a lab protocol, because you could have versions to be like, oh, that was, so from my experience, that might have been the protocol for cell lysis version 1. And then we changed the detergent that we were using, and now we have a protocol for cell lysis version 2. And we can see the history throughout and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's excellent. And then once you've created the fork, you can go into back to the pencil emoji and click Edit File.
Can you, Jabber, for
Yes.
a variation, can you go back? Can you cancel those changes? And now click on the README above at the file there. Yeah. So again, now you're looking at it from, this is the same file and the file structures on the left. And now you can still see that pencil emoji, the pencil icon at the top. There's also some more things that you can do, but again, it's the pencil that's going to let you edit the file.
Yeah, so we've pre-populated some stuff. So we ask that those who've created the repo those who've created the forks,
Yeah.
go in, click edit this file, and add some changes. So whether you want to add to the list,
Or delete things. And you can scroll down because there's lots of space. We're getting, hopefully, because you don't usually have 20-something people trying to edit the same file. So it's going to be quite messy on my end when it comes time to merging everything back together. If you have 20-something people contributing to a file, you have a wonderful project that has a lot of interest. So that's a wonderful problem to have, but we'll see how messy it gets from my side. Usually you're pulling teeth and you've got like 2 people who have made some changes.
yeah, so this will be an extreme example because rarely
Yeah.
will you have that many people commit changes, not to overwhelm anyone, but just usually it's 1 or 2 people.
Yeah.
And then once you've made your changes, just click commit changes.
You can find lots of cheat sheets and documentation for how to do Markdown available on the web. So there are sometimes different flavors of Markdown, and this is the GitHub Markdown flavor. And you can do it to add links. We didn't get into pictures, but what you're going to be, that's more complicated of adding pictures. But we can have, if you're interested in learning more about this kind of stuff in the future, maybe leave a note in the chat and we can work on GitHub, the next step, educational training. So if you have requests about things you'd like to learn, of course you can stick them there. And the documentation site that we included earlier has stuff as well. So Jabber, you'll have to show them how to do a PR to get it back up to me because I don't have any PRs yet.
Okay. So PR is the pull request. So once you've made your changes, you click commit changes. Again, you write what the message you're changing and what you've changed. So added a bullet point. Something like that, just so the person who's reviewing has an idea of what's been changed. But we'll show you what it looks like on the other end. Click commit changes.
So, so now that, oh, Jabber, you're doing it on, you're doing
Oh,
it.
apologies. I got to go back to the test too.
No, you have to do it. You have to, you need to do it from Sandbox. You need to fork that, which I think you already have, and then in your own repo, make the changes there. It's always, you always have to watch in which repo in which organization or user are you, and in which branch are you working.
So this is a good learning opportunity. So as the owner here, it says fork already exists.
Because you had forked it already.
Yeah.
So you can then go back to your account and look at your repositories. Yeah, yeah, exactly. And there's the sandbox. And you can see there it's written forked from climate smack. So here's a good example. So Jabber went and he made the changes already. Wait. He already had made changes on upstream. So now you can see that it says that his branch is one commit behind what was already done. So you can see this branch is one commit behind the upstream repository. So when Jabber starts his day, he's going to say, I'm going to get the latest version. So he's going to click sync fork. And this branch is out of date because he had already made changes. So he's updating his branch. And there you can see his README added number 13. So now he's working with the latest and greatest. So if he had been working, he could then go and sync fork and it would update, and maybe he might have some conflicts or something like that. But that's what you kind of start your day by saying, which repo am I in? Which branch am I on? Sync to be updated. So Jabber, add something to the bottom of this and then show how to submit a PR. I've got one PR from Jerome. Thanks, Jerome.
So in here, now we can add, let's say 14.
So Jabber's, yep.
Will this now create a PR?
Yep, no. So now you're going to go to commit changes.
Yep. And then
So
add a description.
Yeah. So no, you don't have to do a new branch. You're in your repo, and you're gonna add your description. And then when he commits the changes, you're gonna commit the changes, so that's saving it locally to his. And now so there's your changes and you're on your repo. So now go back up to click on, you're going to do a PR. So click on pull request now. So he can work and commit changes throughout. Like he can save this file, and then he can save on that file, and he can keep working like that. And now he's all done his work. He's made all his changes, as everyone else should be finishing their changes to the README. And you go, so you notice, remember, he's in his GitHub repo in Sandbox, which is his fork. Then he goes to pull request, because he's made some commits that are now different. He's going to go to new pull request, because I'm the person now in charge of the repo. So he's going to request that I pull his work into the main thing. So he can see what the changes were. We can see it'd be in red and green, additions and deletions. And now he's like, okay, I like it. made my, I did the good stuff, and then he's going to go create a pull request. And now, yeah, and at the top, you can see that it's going from the head repository, or is Husseini Sandbox main, and it's going to back up to Climate Smart Egg Collab, where we started, main. You could change if you wanted to change branches, because remember, a pull request is branch to branch. So now he's going to create the pull request. And if there's no conflicts, then otherwise he would have to fix any conflicts. So he's going to, wait, stop. Jabber is special because he's in my organization. You're not going to merge because that's my job. He's done. He did his PR. He's all done. So now, Jabber, I'm going to share my screen to show what it looks like on my side. Oh, first of all, are there any questions up to this point? Okay.
So,
yes.
Sorry. When I went to put the request, the create pull request button is grayed out. It's not green that I can click on.
Did you do any commits?
Yes, I did few commits.
And then
basically I click on the new pull request, and then the
and it's going from your branch in your account, and it's going up to Climate Smart Egg Collab.
Yeah, that's the arrow shows. Yeah. So when I click on the create pull request,
has anyone else been able to create a pull request?
Yes, I created one and I saw that it was grayed out. After adding the title, it is activated and you can create.
Oh, okay. You have to add the title. Oh, yeah, I see. Yeah, okay. You have to add
now I've got a whole bunch of pull requests. Okay, so I'm going to share this is on, there we go. I'm worried that there might be settings because we tested it amongst ourselves, but we all have different permissions than everybody else. So maybe we missed something, but so here it is. I've got 6 pull requests and this is going to be a mess. Okay. So the first one, this is Jerome. He did his first pull request. I can look and see what files he changed. The black bear like blueberry. Very good point. You have to watch out for that in the woods. And if he had 1 or more commits, I would see this here. And if we were doing this as a review, like if we were then collaboratively deciding to accept or reject submissions to our collaborative document, we would have a meeting and we would say, hello, everyone, we're going to go through and review the latest PRs to see if we're going to accept it or not. And in advance, you could go in and have a look at the PR and you could make comments about it that other people can have to review before we can, because we have to finish the review before we can finalize the pull request. So we had some conversation about it. We had a look at what Jerome had written. And now I'm going to, this is the easy one because it's at the very beginning. I'm just going to merge it. And then Jerome's work got merged into the code. So if we see here, there is Jerome in the sandbox, the black bear likes blueberries. And if I go through, for example, if I look at the README text, and then I can say, I don't know why they call it blame, but I can see who I'm going to blame for that, because I can see that 10 minutes ago, Jerome updated the README and he added the black bear likes blueberries. And last year, when I first started on the sandbox example, is when I added these sections. So you can see through at this point of commits who was responsible for adding what. So now I'm going to go back and this is not going to be, we're going to have a lot of merge conflicts. So on my end, I'm going to come in and I'm going to, it's highlighting where the merge conflict is. We have a correction. So I'm going to make my decision as a person who's fixing it. I'm going to I could then send this back for discussion, but I'm going to commit to main instead. So I had to fix the conflicts because you usually don't have this many conflicts because you usually don't have this many people. So I can add more documentation. After the meeting, I went through and I fixed conflict because I did such and such. There's nice things on the internet where you can read. So I have, if we look at my where is closed pull request? Open your pull requests. Oh, damn. So here are my closed pull requests. These are previous PR, so you can see other work that has been done historically to this repo. But I'm going to go back and look at open PRs. Shiro added favorite animal, excellent. Branch has conflicts. That's probably, yeah. I'm going to just pick that. Okay. That's resolved. Mark that as resolved. Commit the merge. I understand. It goes to main. And gonna merge that pull request because I fixed all of the conflicts. And on to the next. Update README. So, I can see each one of these has one commit, but you could have, you could be working on this for like a week before you finally fix all the bugs and are ready to send it back upstream. So let's have a look at the files that were changed. So we're adding this. So I'm going to say, oh, no conflicts right away. Going to confirm the merge. All done. If I were to reject the pull request, for example, I would just close the pull request. I might add comments and say, this looked really great, but we needed more information before we can do the merge. Can you please fix such and such before we can merge it? And then you can close the pull request and then it can go back for more work and then come back in. Another thing which was my mistake I had made, is that when you're doing the PR, if you do the PR and then you keep working, your new work also is in that PR. It's from this branch to this branch, not this branch at this time coming back. So if you want to then continue more work and you don't want it to be part of that PR, you start another branch. So yeah, I had some fun with that. Like, for example, I'm the Linux Foundation. I have to submit some reports, and so they request that the annual reporting is all done. So I have to fork the repo, add my documentation for that monthly report, and then put in a PR and request that it's merged back into the formal documentation site. Any other questions? Do people feel that they have learned a bit more about how to work with GitHub?
We got some thumbs up, so that's a good sign.
Yeah. So I have also, as with anything that's complicated, I have breezed over a bunch of details. So, but what I wanted is that people have enough information that they can take this information away and at least start to get the lingo about how to find help for your next questions. But if you put in the chat about things that you would like to be covered in the next GitHub, by all means, yep. So here we have some deletions. We have, I think that won't show up. Let's see. I think you need to have a space. There's emoji.
So in the last little bit, we'll just show what the changes that were made will look like on the main page.
Yeah,
And then,
okay. So I'll pull, I haven't gotten to everyone's PR yet. So here we've been adding lists. We have some new animals and block quotes and code with the backticks. That's handy if because then you can like copy code chunks. So if you're putting in documentation, you can add the code chunk and then people can copy the code chunk for other things, and the emojis and so on. So these are, and then if I look directly at the README file, then when I'm looking at the code, this is all the markdown that we were working on, and then the blame, it tells me all the different changes that who was contributing to each part. We have our 7 contributors so far. Sometimes raw is another way to just look at the raw text file that's in behind. And then if you really like somebody's sandbox, you can just copy the whole file and then paste it into something else. Like if it's got a snippet of code or something, you can copy and paste it just like that, rather than, if you wanted the markdown, maybe you'd have to go like this and copy it. But instead, you could also just copy the whole file with the copy raw and editing and so on. Excellent.
yeah, thank you so much, Carly, for that demonstration. I'll just end it off with the last few slides and then allow people the opportunity to ask questions. So that was just the link that we were using. Sorry, the lights in this office automatically turn off. So the last little bit, we're including resources. So I'll put these slides up as well. So there's the link to our documentation page, GitHub website resources. I've also included a 3-part training video on YouTube as well, where it shows you different ways to do what we did. So you'll notice when they create their account and they're making changes and reviewing pull requests, they're using their command prompt on their computer. So that's another way to do it. We were just directly editing in Markdown. And then we've also included a Markdown cheat sheet, which lets you see how to do some of the coding and how to write stuff in Markdown to get different outputs. So with that, we'd like to thank everyone for attending. Here's my contact information as well as the CS-DCC's contact info. And thank you to all our supporters. And if you have any questions, we'd be happy to answer them.
So everybody who created a fork can merge the pull request from everybody. I can see option of merge pull request.
You don't get to merge it. It's from the upstream, and everybody made their own downstream versions. And now they're merging it back up to the upstream repository, and they're merging it up to me. But somebody could go to your repo, find one of your public repositories and fork it to there, do the work. And then when they submit a PR back to your repo, then you would be the person who does all those tasks that I was doing, where you're looking at the merge, resolving any merge conflicts or anything like that. And then so you can run your own software project or whatever and take all those merge requests, pull requests. Yeah. So I'm just going through and doing the last merges from everyone. And I put also in the chat, there was a question about how to use it with the code. And that's how to get it up and down is push and pull, which is different from fork and pull request. And the CS-DCC has a documentation site, and I have another page there documenting how to get it up and down from the computer.
So once again, oh, okay, great. Once again, thank you so much for everyone who attended, and thank you for following along. I hope you learned something new. After this event is over, we will share the recording as well as the resources and the slides that we used. And we will also send out a questionnaire to get some feedback and how to improve. Because you can do so much in GitHub, I suspect there might be a need for a second series on GitHub to go a little bit more in depth. So thank you again, and thank you to Carly and Jerome for being guest speakers and showing everyone a little bit about what you know with GitHub. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.